Hi everyone, it's Tony Young here. Welcome back to my channel for another video. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a soft seascape using a lot of beautiful colors. I'll go over them in just a moment. We're going to have some gentle waves down in here, some flowers with some warm light hitting the bottom of them from the sunset, and a beautiful little charming lantern right about here, and a little butterfly. So there's lots to learn in this video today, lots to get you inspired. And let's go over the supplies I'm using. Feel free to use whatever you have at this time or whatever you prefer. I'm painting on a 16 by 20 stretched canvas and have the following colors: titanium white, neon or luminous lemon yellow, neon orange, sap green, phthalo blue, luminous rose, and dioxazine purple. I'll be using a large number 50 Filbert brush for the background and larger areas. And then I'm going to go down to some smaller brushes here, a 20 flat brush, a 14 Filbert, and a 3 round. We're going to begin the painting by adding a little bit of water to the canvas. The water helps the paint spread and blend more easily. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start with a little bit of white and a little bit of blue. And we're going to just pull that across the top. And then we're going to take a little bit of that rose, a little bit more blue and white. And we're just going to start gradually working our way down. Okay, then I'm going to take some yellow and some white and start adding a little bit of that here. Our horizon line is going to be pretty low. We're going to just add that horizon line right here. I would say 3 to 4 inches up from the bottom. Let's take some orange and some white and start adding a little bit of that here and there. I'm going to pull some yellow, orange, and white along the bottom here for our highlights in the water. Now let's go ahead and rinse this brush out. And the next color I'm going to take is white and rose. And we're going to start adding that in here, working that up into the blue, and then adding a little bit of it down here as well. It's okay if your canvas is dry or if it's wet like mine. I'm painting wet and wet right now, but it works both ways. I'm going to add some along the bottom here as well. I'm just going to come in from either side. Then we'll go back into our blue and white. And we'll just pull, pull. Now as we're pulling that blue and white into the yellow, it's going to pick up a little bit of that yellow, and we're going to get some turquoise shades. Some lighter, some darker. Okay, I'm going to start adding a little bit more, and I'm going to add some purple as well. I'm going to go over to my flat brush now, and what I'm going to do is just soften Now, if your canvas is dry already, then you may not need to do this step. But if you want to make sure that it's still a little bit wet. So I'm just going over and lightly, if you notice, bring that up on either side. Just kind of gives it a little bit of a lift. Okay, then I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to actually just rinse this brush out. And I'm going to take some yellow, orange, and white. And I'm going to start adding that just above the horizon. Let's pull a little bit of that beautiful rose in there. And come in with a little bit more blue, white, purple too if you want. I'm just going to add a little bit of white to this blue. I'm just focusing mainly on the sides of the canvas and adding a little scoop here and there. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of the purple, the blue, and the white. Pull that in. Now you can play up on the colors as much or as little as you like. Just note that you need to have it dark enough for those beautiful sun rays and glowing lights to show up. So you need to have enough shadows in order to create light. Okay, so now let's work on the water. I'm going to take some rose, some purple, some blue on the edge of my brush here. And I'm just going to start adding little lines through, and depending on how much movement you want in the water, all depends on how much you move your brush, either up a little bit or down like this. That'll give you some more movement. So if you don't want a lot of movement in your water and you want it just to be really calm, then keep your lines straighter. And take a little bit more of the rose. Okay, now that this is dry, I've got a clean brush. I'm going to take a little bit of white, blue, and yellow, and we're going to make some beautiful turquoise here. I'm going to turn and pull to load both sides and keep the end of my brush flat. And then I'm going to start coming in, and I'm going to actually add a little bit of movement by kind of wiggling and dipping down and back up with my brush. I want to have a little bit of gentle movement in the water. Okay, then I'm going to take some white and some yellow on the end of my brush. And just pull that through, concentrating more of the light being down here in the center. And with a clean brush, let's pull into some of that orange and white. Get it on the tip of the brush, and we're going to add little hints of this. Then with a clean brush, we're going to take some of that rose and some white, and we'll add a little bit of that in here as well. Take just a little bit more of the white. Okay, I'm going to add a few mountains or little islands in the distance, whatever they may be. A little bit of blue, purple, rose, and just going to kind of go bumpy, wiggly, and then have it come down lower here. I'm not going to go over the center. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit more of the purple and the blue. Just a little bit more purple. And I'm going to come in and add a few rocks that are darker here, more in the mid-ground area. Right, so the sky is the background, and then this area in here is the midground, and then we'll have the foreground be the branch, the lantern, and the branch here with the butterfly. And then I'm just going to take my brush and just kind of pull like this for a little reflection in the water. It helps when your brush kind of splits apart like this, see, into sections. If it doesn't, then you can just go this way and add these little lines. I'm going to rinse my brush out. And now I'm going to just switch over to the Filbert brush. I'm going to take a little bit of orange and white, and we're going to go partially over the shape and top of that mountain and partially over the sky. Just kind of sets it back there, makes it kind of glow. All right, I think we can start coming in and working on our branch. So I'm going to use my round brush, a little bit of water, some purple, and we're going to come in, pull, twist. When I twist while I'm pulling, it goes up and then down and gives you a nice kind of natural wiggly shape to your branch. Unless you don't want a lot of movement in your branch, if you want it to have less, then just pull more without the wiggling and twisting and turning. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker. Remember, we've got a lantern hanging, so it's got to be thick and strong enough. I'm going to take a little bit of green. The green and the purple mix gives you a nice earthy color. It tones the purple. But don't spend too long over focusing and detailing your big branch and other little branches, because we are going to cover a lot of this up with leaves and flowers, right? But we just want to have a basic kind of a shape here and just know that it's there. Be able to see a little bit of it. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out. And I'm going to add a little branch here. Sometimes I just rinse my brush out in between, even using the same colors, just because the paint will start to build up in the gold part, which is the ferrule on this brush. Happens to be gold, but just to show you right in here. So the paint gets inside of that, and that will ruin the brush because it'll start to dry. So I just like to wash it out once in a while. Okay, I'm going to come in and add a little branch here, pulling off the side. Again, using some purple and some green. All right, we're going to use our Filbert brush next, and we're going to start blocking and tapping in some leaves. I'm going to be using some green, a little bit of purple, and just have a bunch of paint on your brush like this, and we're just going to start to lightly push and tap. Now, when I push and tap, I'm turning my brush before I go back and add more. So you're seeing me do this quickly. I'm going to show you again in slower motion here. Push, turn. So it looks more believable and like those leaves are growing in different directions. But you see, when you just push gently on the side, push like that, you get a nice leaf shape. If you push like this, not the same. That being said, this is going to be kind of out of focus and blurry. We're going to build up some details from these. But yeah, you'll get a lot of practice working on larger canvases like this. Unlike the smaller canvases we were working on for our September and August challenge, where I showed you guys a new painting every single day. That was like a marathon of painting. I loved it. And I loved showing you guys that. But those were smaller canvases, and that's really good practice. But sometimes on a larger canvas, you get a little bit more practice, because especially for leaves and things that are larger that you need to paint more of and on a bigger scale. So see how we can still see the branch through there, right? So what I'm going to do now is take a little bit of yellow, a little bit of white, and pull that into the green. And I'm going to start adding some lighter shades. We're just going to build up. We'll have some darker in shadow leaves, and then some other ones that are a little bit brighter and are letting the sun hit them a little bit more. And then we're really going to play up on the light of the sunset, the warm peachy tones hitting those leaves, which I think is my absolute favorite part of this painting. My favorite thing about it is that warm glow. I love seeing that on the trees in the evening when the sun's setting. It's like, I call it like the magic hour. Now down here, we're gonna continue along. Gonna use that green and purple and just start tapping add a few little leaves here. I'm gonna add some more paint. Reload my brush. I'm going to take some yellow and white now with the green. And then I'm going to add just a little wiggle into that purple and green. So just wiggling with your brush like that to get it nice and flat. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of come down here, pull and slide my brush, adding a little bit of hanging vines or moss. Just because this bottom corner I feel like needs a little something. I'll just bring that all together. Then I'm going to do the same thing up here. We'll add a little bit of something hanging here. Kind of just makes it look graceful, and kind of dreamy and romantic. And then we'll have our lantern hanging from a little rope or chain like this. Gonna rinse my brush out. Slide that paint up and down with my brush just to make it a little narrower. And then we'll start coming in with some purple, a little bit of that green on the end of the brush. And we're going to add a little line here, about an inch wide. And then I'm using the side of my brush for these smaller areas. Add another one here, like you're creating a cake, a stacked cake. Then it gets one that gets smaller and smaller, and the base is the widest. Okay, and then we're going to come down here. I'm going to go in slightly from the end of either corner here. You can use any brush you want for this or that you feel comfortable with. I'm steadying my hand. This helps you have a little bit more control when you steady your hand by placing your pinky for details and lines. And I'm just going to pull underneath here, not as wide as the one on top here, okay? This is going to be narrower. And then we're going to come down here and make it smaller and smaller. And then just add a little ball on the bottom. I'm gonna slightly bring these ends up on a slant. I like it, just gives it a little bit more of a lift there and character. Kind of make this a little bit bigger on the top. I'm gonna add a little ball on the top as well. And then I'm going to add a little line here, off center. It's not right in the middle. And I'm going to add another little one here. And this is just for like the other side. And I'm going to thin this one out slightly. You may not need to do this, but I want to. I want to have a little bit more of a space in between those ones. Okay, I'm going to take my round brush, add a little bit more purple and green, and I'm going to add a loop here. I'm going to have some flowers coming down in here as well. You could add a little twist in here, pulling and twisting. You could go the other way and it might look more like a chain, but you don't have to, right? It's just extra details. Like I said, we are going to be adding some flowers, kind of trickling down. Just going to take a little bit more purple and make that a little bit darker. Just going over that line again. And I'm going to use a little bit of green again with some water. Just thinning the paint out a bit, and that purple. Pull, sweep. So you can do this with a flat brush. You can use the Filbert brush just to have some trailing lines. You know how I usually like to add these a lot to my trees. I find they're what stand out to me when I'm on hikes, and I just love vines and anything kind of cascading down, ivy and moss. Could add a little tap in there with the green and the purple. Maybe make one or two a little thicker. Okay, we're gonna come in here and add a little bit of yellow and white with our round brush. And then we're going to take some of the orange, not a lot of paint, and we're just going to go inside. You hear the dry brush? This just gives you a nice transparent, thin layer of paint. And we're going to go around the top here, shape around this corner, making it a little rounded. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit more and we're going to sweep this over because the warm peachy light is glowing on this. We'll add a little bit down here as well. I'm going to gently go around the bright center. Now I'm going to switch brushes. We're going to go back over to our Filbert brush and we're going to come in and bring in that warm light that I talked about, the same peachy glow here. So we're going to take some of that orange and white. Okay, and then we're going to push and tap where we want to have that beautiful warm light. I'm going to add some down here as well on this branch. Add a little bit to the sweeping vines. Maybe some of it's hitting parts of the branch. And then we're going to start coming in with some flowers. So I'm going to rinse my brush out and I'm going to take this beautiful rose with some white. And I haven't over mixed it to make one color. If you look really closely, you can see there's a little bit of a marbling going on there. And this can be really pretty and add lighter and darker shades. Kind of just instantly when you tap it in there. I'm just pushing and tapping multiple times in one area so it looks like little clumps of flowers. We have a few coming down here. Okay, reloading. I'll take a little bit more of the rose and come in and add some deeper tones. This will dry a little darker as well. You want to have a few different shades going on for different lighting. Some of them are going to be a little brighter. Okay, I'm going to come in with some white now. Mix up a little bit more. Okay, we're just out to make the idea of flowers here, not hyper focused on every little detail, every little petal, just how we see it as a whole when you back up from your canvas, which is really, by the way, a good idea to take a few minutes just to every so often, when we've been close up like this, focusing on something, we need to step back and see how it looks a little farther away. That'll give us more of a true idea of what it's looking like and what we need, what's working, what's not working. Okay, I'm going to add some down here as well. A little bit of white. And I'm going to come in and add a little bit of yellow and green. And also going to take some blue and white. And I'm going to add a little bit here on top of these flowers, so that'll give them some light purple shades, blue violet. You can also take a little bit of purple and mix that in with some blue and white. And add a little bit of that here and there. Take a little bit extra white in there and then tap and dab on top. Okay, now I'm going to take some more orange and I'm going to tap over part of the pink of that rose. And that's going to turn the heat up a little bit more. I'm going to do the same, whoops, same thing down here. I'll make that a flower. Add a little bit of green. A little tap and dab here. Need a little bit of green anyways to come down this little hanger. Now I'm going to add a little butterfly while that's drying. Just before we do that though, we're going to be using our round brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of purple. I'm just going to run this through to make this a little darker right underneath and just a little bit thicker. And then gently pull in here. Okay, so let's start painting a little butterfly. We're going to keep this really simple. I'm just going to use some purple, a little bit of water to thin the paint. And we'll add a little butterfly, let's say right in here. So we're going to come up, down, and then pull in there. And then we're going to come down here and make one a little bit smaller. I'm going to outline this, making it a little thicker. And then we're going to have a little body in here as well. So we'll just gently pull. And then we're going to add another little wing that's on the other side. Just thinning my paint out again with some water. And we'll start adding some lines in here, just a simple pattern. You can follow mine or you can make your own up. Sort of a Y shape here. Bring that in. Okay, so just these little loops here. Loops and lines. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of this blue violet that we made, so blue, purple, and white. Get a little bit on the tip of my brush. I'm gonna add a little dab there. A little bit inside of here. And we'll just add a few little soft accents of this pretty color. Just mixing up a little bit more. I'm going to go back over to purple. Make that a little darker. And I'm going to make that turquoise again because I think mine's all dried. Just a little bit of yellow, blue, and white. And I'm going to add this color inside because I just think it's so pretty. Just going to fill in these little spaces here. Then I'm going to go back over to the yellow and white. I think there's like a little bit of green in there, which is fine because it's not overpowering. And I'm going to add that right in here, closest to the body, and then sweep into where we left off with that light turquoise. Then I'm going to take purple again with a clean brush. And I'm going to add a thin and dark outline. Now you can make it a little ruffly, like butterfly wings sometimes are, looking like kind of scalloped on the ends. They're just going around in these little loops. I think that just makes it stand out a lot more, doesn't it? Okay, we're going to be using our flat brush. You want to make sure it's just a little bit damp to the touch. And we're going to start off with some white and a little bit of orange. Just thinned out tinted white, just tinting our white with that orange. And the center of the water that's glowing here right below our sun. So we want to make sure our sun is, we'll have it starting right about here. And then we're just going to take the corner of our brush, pull and flick up. And then we're going to go this way. And then this way, right over the lantern. Okay, I'm going to mix up a little bit more. Add another one right here. And if you don't want it going over your lantern, then we can go over top of this, or you can carefully wipe it off. But I think we would see, because this is glass, right? We would see that sun ray through the glass. And I just went over some wet green, but I'm not going to freak out. I'm going to show you actually, because this happens to a lot of people and they think they have to throw their painting out and freak right out. Just gently with a damp brush, wiggle and push that back down where it belongs. And I am going to take a little bit of white and yellow now. You can mix that in with your orange, peachy color if you want as well. And I'm going to come from down here and pull that up. Start adding this to these beautiful sun rays. We'll go around a little circle here. You can use the corner of your brush, or you could switch over to a smaller brush. And now I'm going to take some orange, a little bit more of the orange. Dry brush though, and we're going to come from up here. More of the ends. Okay, just gently wiggling. I like how this one looks a little bit turquoise. I'm going to leave that. And I'm going to go back over to our round brush, and I'm going to add some white. And a little tip for you guys, if you add a little bit of rose, purple, and white, Just kind of tint your white the littlest bit of purple. Just a touch of that blue violet in there. And then you add it to where you want the sun to be the brightest. You think you would add just straight white, right? But there's something about adding a little hint of blue and purple to that white that's going to make it really glow. And then I'm going to take white and then pull, or you can use that light blue violet. Pull a little bit of that through. It's just such an unusual thing to do, and you would like really think that you would have to just use straight white for the brightest, right? And although I used to do that, I now do this, and I'm sharing that with you guys. I'm going to add this in the water as well for those brightest highlights. Again, that's a little bit of purple, blue, and white. Now I added a bit of rose to my purple to warm it up, but then I cooled it down with a little bit of blue. So either one works, but I want you guys to try that and see how cool it is, because it will change the way you think about making your brightest brights in your paintings. Now I'm just going to go over this lantern because I want it to be in the front and the sun rays in the back. But like I said, you would see the rays through the glass a bit. But I'm going to take a little bit of orange and a little bit of purple just because I want to maintain a bit of a warm glow. Okay, so it makes a nice color, like a burnt sienna shade. Dark brown shade. Okay, so that just kind of brings it back into the foreground. And then I'm going to take some yellow, purple, orange, and a little bit of green because I want to create more of like a earthy olive shade of green. To balance all the bright, pretty colors we've got in here, we need to add a few muted, more earthy tones. So that's green, orange, purple, and yellow. So that makes a big difference. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit in here as well. Just little taps and dabs. Just going to go over part of this branch with some purple. Okay, you can add some more branches if you want, like I did here. And I think we have a finished painting. So I'm going to stand back, pull the camera back, refocus here so you can see it from much farther away, and a glimpse of my very messy studio. There's so much going on here, but I love it. A creative mess. I really like this painting, and I hope you guys do too. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in another video. Bye!